What's up, everybody? Welcome to Story Driven. On today's episode, I'm going to tell you a story about how Instinct got me a free hot air balloon ride. I have been really excited to make this episode. This is one of my favorite stories. It's one of my favorite illustrations and examples to use when I'm talking about Instinct to people. And as we're going to unpack on today's episode, Instinct is something that I place a really high premium on personally. I'm big on instinct. I trust my instincts. I've put a lot of work into developing my instincts and working on them so that I can trust them more and so that they benefit me more in what I do. I have some awesome quotes that I found on instinct to sort of give us a working definition as we go forward through the episode. Agatha Christie said, "Instinct is a marvelous thing. It can neither be explained nor ignored." Michael Burke said, "Good instincts usually tell you what to do before your head has figured it out." I love that. I think that's on the way to a good working definition. And then my favorite one, the last one I'll share, is Robert Grace. He says, "Intuition is the supralogic that cuts out all the routine processes of thought and leaps straight from the problem to the answer." That is as close of a definition of what instinct means to me as I think you can get. To me, it's just that gut feeling logic that takes me straight from point A to point B in my mind, even when it doesn't make sense if you're thinking about it rationally. And the cool thing about this is I've used instinct, and my instincts have paid off several times in tangible ways that I can share and point out with you for this episode. If you go to my YouTube channel, just type in Joe Patterson in the search bar in YouTube. I should be the first channel that comes up, and you can see some of my videos. So the first one is Waterfalls in Fall Colors. It's a video that I made a couple years ago. I was on a camping trip in South Dakota, and Instinct was what got me the coolest shot in the film. It's the climax of the film. So if you go, you don't even have to watch the whole thing, although honestly, it'd be cool if you did. But if you go and go to the end of Waterfalls in Fall Colors, the last thing I did on the trip was hike Little Devil's Tower in Custer State Park in South Dakota. So I hiked Little Devil's Tower. Griffin was with me on that one. And the day we did it, it was really foggy. Like the clouds were low, super dense fog, even on the ground. The weather said it wasn't supposed to clear all day, and I took my drone. You can see it in the video. We're hiking up the trail to Little Devil's Tower, and I've got my drone on me. And, conventional wisdom would say, don't take your drone. You're not going to be able to use it at all. I passed a few hikers on the way down, and they all said, they'd been up on Black Elk Peak. They'd been up on Little Devil's Tower, and they hadn't been able to see anything. It was just foggy. But I just had this instinct that if I took the drone and I got up to the top of Little Devil's Tower, I'd have the opportunity to get some footage. And obviously you can see at the end of Waterfalls in Fall Colors, that's what happened. We had to wait 2 hours on the summit of Little Devil's Tower in thick fog. I was soaking wet. It was really cold. But all of a sudden, it just happened. All of a sudden, the cloud ceiling just it lowered. And it was one of the most beautiful moments in my entire life. We were just on this island of rock in a sea of cloud. And every once in a while, the ceiling would raise a little bit, and we'd get covered again, and then it would lower, and we could see again. And when the ceiling would come back up again, it was literally like being at the beach and watching a wave sweep over you. You could see this wave of cloud and fog roll towards you, and then it would go over you, and you couldn't see, and then it would go back down, and I could look over, because Devil's Tower is one of the high points in the area, and you could look all over the valleys and the trees and the other mountains and see the clouds flowing around and over them like water. It was absolutely incredible. And so I got the drone up. I got some footage. Honestly, that's some of my favorite footage I've ever shot. The aerial footage of us on top of Little Devil's Tower with the clouds around, and it's just, we're on an island in the sky. Oh, it was incredible. And that was all instinct. The weather said, or my weather app said that the weather wasn't supposed to clear. The clouds weren't supposed to clear. The other hikers the other hikers we met said, no, it's all foggy up there. You won't be able to see anything. Instinct, man. It was all instinct. So you can go check it out. Check out the end of Waterfalls in Fall Colors on my YouTube channel. You'll see the end, the climax of the film with all that aerial footage, with the clouds above Little Devil's Tower. That was all instinct. Instinct paid off majorly. Another one of my personal favorites. Go to my YouTube channel, watch Duke's Roundabout. That one's a short one. It's a very fun little short film. It's one of my favorites I've ever shot. A lot of other people have said it's their favorite video on my channel. It's just so fun. It's fun and it's heartwarming. So Duke's Roundabout, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It was just so much fun. But basically the idea for Duke's Roundabout, it never would have happened without my instinct. So around Scotts Bluff, where I live, Gearing in Scotts Bluff, it's not a huge community. And so, there, I had, just probably like 4 or 5 times over the last 4 years or so, being around downtown Scotts Bluff, every once in a while, whether I'd be driving down the street or I'd be in a store or in a restaurant, I would see this guy go shooting past on the sidewalk on a longboard, being pulled by a golden lab who held the leash in his mouth, like a kind of like a chariot. And every time I would see that guy, I'd just be like, man, that's so fun. And this idea started to form in my subconscious. You need to make a video with that guy. That'd be a lot of fun. And finally, it worked its way up in my brain until I said, I'm going to do it. I'm going to find this guy. I'm going to make a video. And so I went on our garage sale Facebook page. I'm a huge believer in the power of garage sale Facebook pages. I went on our garage sale Facebook page and I made like an in search of post. And I said, I'm looking for this guy who rides around town on a longboard with a golden lab. Can you help me find him? Does anyone know this guy? And within minutes, probably within 20 minutes, someone commented and said, I know the guy, he's my cousin. And so they were able to connect us. His name was David, and I got in touch with him. And he was really excited. He said, yeah, man, absolutely. Like, that'd be great. Let's film a video. By the way, I'm in the Navy, and I'm actually moving to Washington on Monday. And this was, I think, Friday evening that we were making the connection. And it was just crazy. I had the instinct that weekend to reach out and try to find this guy, not knowing that if I hadn't done it that weekend, we wouldn't have had the opportunity to do this. Because like I said, he moved away. He left on Monday. He moved to Washington. Instinct was the only reason that Duke's Roundabout happened. As it was, we got to go meet up. On Sunday afternoon. He actually left. He came from his going away party to film with me. And it was a rainy day, and it was looking kind of, sketchy, but it was the only opportunity we had, so we went for it. And the result was Duke's Roundabout. That whole project never would have happened without instinct. And then the third one I'll mention before we get into the hot air balloon ride is one of my most recent projects. That's CJ's Trick the Bluffs. I saw this kid post a video. One of my friends shared it. This kid I didn't know posted a video on his Facebook page of him doing parkour and tricking. And I could tell from some of his surroundings in the video that he was from Scotts Bluff. And I immediately, basically Facebook cold called him. I sent him a message on Facebook, said, hey, this is who I am. Here's what I've done. I sent him some of my work. I said, I've been the official videographer for the Old West Balloon Fest for the Scotts Bluff Christmas Parade. You want to make a video with me? And he said, yeah, absolutely. And so we were trying to get it scheduled, and it turned out that we got to film one day, and then the next day he moved to Montana. So I don't know if that's a curse or just weird coincidence, but I find these awesome people to film with, and I get one shot, and then they move. But that's another project that would never have happened without instinct. And you can see that one on my YouTube channel as well. But backing up a little bit to the Old West Balloon Fest. So the Old West Balloon Fest, as I understand it, I didn't do a ton of research on the background. It was something that used to happen here in the Panhandle a while ago, and then it kind of fizzled out, and they stopped doing it for something like 10 years. And then 2 years ago, they were going to bring it back. And we had been hearing about it for a while. They were bringing back the Old West Balloon Fest, and it was going to be a big deal. And that was pretty much all I knew about it. And then I heard on the news or something that part of the balloon festival obviously was a sunrise launch of all the balloons. And I didn't really have any plans to go. I hadn't talked to anyone about it. And then the night before, so this was on Saturday, the launch was on Saturday, Friday night, my instinct just jumped in and started like elbowing me in the ribs and said, you need to go and film that sunrise launch. I was like, oh, okay, at this point I've learned to listen. And so I got my gear together, I charged batteries, and I decided to do it. And this is crazy because instinct was responsible for this whole project and everything that follows. There were 4 pivotal instinct points that I'm going to share with you in this podcast. 4 pivotal instinct points that at any one of these points, if I had not listened to my instincts, if at any one of these points I hadn't listened to my instincts, nothing would have happened. It would have ended there. Okay, so the first of these 4 pivotal instinct points was go and try to shoot some footage of the morning launch. Obviously, if I hadn't paid attention to this initial instinct, nothing would have happened at all. That would be the end of our story. There wouldn't even be a podcast about this. Secondly, my second instinct was don't ask permission to use your drone. See, I had talked to another filmmaker after the fact who also was shooting the event, the Old West Balloon Fest, and my instincts were dead on. He had asked permission to use a drone, and this was before the FAA and events like this had rules specific to drones. I've been a drone guy ever since the first DJI came out. And so back then, there wasn't FAA legislation, and events like this didn't have rules specific to drones. It was kind of like the Wild West. So he had asked permission to use his drone, and no one knew what to tell him. He got bounced around to several different people in authority who all just kind of kicked the can because they didn't know what to say. And ultimately, he got told kind of this arbitrary, no, just better not. So if I had asked permission to use my drone, I would have wound up in the same spot. I wouldn't have been allowed to use it. Now, I do want to give a side note here. I absolutely don't advocate breaking the laws when it comes to drones. Now that legislation exists, the whole process has actually become a lot more streamlined and easy to understand. So follow the rules. Last year, I was asked to be the official videographer for the Scottsbluff Christmas Parade. The people in charge really wanted aerial footage, and I'll admit I was skeptical, given that the parade was right down Main Street. It was at night. There was going to be thousands of people there. There was going to be vehicles and just all these all these factors. I was skeptical that there was no way we were going to be allowed to use a drone. But we asked the parade's official law enforcement liaison, and much to my surprise, he gave us a total green light. He said, yeah, absolutely, go for it. So the point is that asking forgiveness rather than permission is a tactic that, first of all, it's not always the right way to go. And it's a tactic that requires finesse and well-honed instincts to employ successfully if you care about things like your reputation and making it easier or harder for other people to use drones and things like that. I could make an entire podcast based around this principle, of employing using forgiveness rather than permission as a tactic when filmmaking and all that stuff, maybe I will. But as filmmakers, we understand that risk is sometimes necessary and rules are sometimes arbitrary. But wisdom dictates that you weigh those things against lawsuits, your future career, and how your actions will affect fellow artists. In this case, in this particular case, let me give you some of my thought process. I suspected that any rules would be arbitrary. And I knew that without my drone, the quality of the footage I got would be drastically reduced. I also knew that I would fly responsibly. I would stay far away from the balloons and I wouldn't put anyone in danger. So after I considered all those things, I decided to go for it. Long story short, sometimes it's better to play it safe, and sometimes you gotta risk it to get the biscuit. That's the point of this episode. Instinct guides you through making calculated risks. That's what makes instinct so tough to nail down and so amazing. It's a compass to help you navigate the undefinable. I'm sure that there were plenty of people who would have liked to fly their drones that day and would make a big stink about me breaking the rules and not making sure I was coloring in the lines. But those people didn't make a video that got them a hot air balloon ride. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. So that was my second instinct point. Don't ask permission to use your drone. Third instinct point. Don't try to get to the actual launch site. Find somewhere less crowded. So I got up super early in the morning, like 4:45 or so, headed out, and I knew that there was going to be a lot of people at this event, and obviously the people who organized the event knew there was going to be a lot of people, but I heard later that they were expecting something between like 1,500 to 2,000 people. And if memory serves me correctly, there was something like 12,000 people that attended the sunrise launch. I mean, it was insane. So the launch was a few miles south of the town of Mitchell. Mitchell is about 6 miles or so down the highway from Scotts Bluff. I took the Scotts Bluff highway, the 4-lane, to get there. And before I even got into the town of Mitchell, I was stopped in backed up traffic. And I could look and see all the way up the other side of the valley. I could see this huge line of lights, hundreds of cars backed up on the highway on the other side of the launch site waiting to get in. And my instinct just said, if you try to get into that launch site, first of all, you're never going to get near those balloons. Second of all, there's going to be so many people around, using my drone was going to be pretty much impossible. So following that instinct led me to a gravel road beside the river. I had a decent idea that I was a mile or so downwind of the launch site, and that was it. Every once in a while, I'd hear this very faint sound of the announcer over the PA system, and the launch that morning was actually significantly delayed. And it led me several times to fear that I'd missed the whole thing, that the balloons had gone somewhere away from me and that I just missed the whole thing. So that was very, that was a lot of anxiety. But when the balloons did launch, it turned out that I literally could not have picked a better spot. Almost every single balloon flew right over me, some of them within like 30 feet. One of the balloons actually came across the river right where I was, too low. And about 25 feet from where I was standing at my truck, it hit the trees on the other side of the river. I've never seen anything like it, and I got it on film. You can see that on the 2015 Old West Balloon Fest film. So that was the third pivotal instinct point, and the fourth was film as much as you can of the rest of the festival. This honestly was the easiest pivotal instinct point. But as soon as I got that footage from the sunrise launch, I knew it was so good that to do it justice, I needed to shoot the rest of the festival and produce a cohesive short film of the entire event, including that evening's night glow. It was pretty nerve-wracking running all over the fairgrounds, filming people and bands, especially since I didn't have any credentials. It was positively terrifying using my drone to get some shots of the night glow. I made sure that that was the absolute last thing I shot. I got my aerial shots done as quickly as possible, and then I bailed out at a full run. Worth it. The finished video got thousands of views in under 24 hours. It was shared hundreds of times. It quickly came to the attention of the two women in charge of the festival, who reached out to me and expressed how much they loved it. That video was how the Nebraska Dry Bean Commission found me, and we began our creative relationship. That video was used by our NBC affiliate to produce a commercial for the next year's balloon festival. That video really, it put me on the community's radar. It opened up amazing opportunities, such as filming the 2016 Christmas parade, like I mentioned, and getting a backstage pass to film Rodney Atkins. The most amazing opportunity, however, came the next year when the Old West Balloon Fest reached out to me. And as a thank you for my contribution through the first film, which I let the festival and our NBC affiliate use free of charge as a way of giving back to the community, the festival sent me up in my very own balloon. It was amazing. It had a big banner that read Joe Patterson Films, and I got to bring my wife along, and hands down, it was one of the most incredible experiences I have ever had. It was just mind-blowing. It was so much fun. It was such a wonderful thing to be able to experience with Crystal. I'm terrified of heights, and that took a little effort to get over. I'm trying to film and do a good job, and at the same time, I'm in a basket that barely comes up to my waist, and we are going hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of feet in the air. It was incredible. It was totally incredible. And if I hadn't listened to my instincts a year before, none of it would have been possible. I was the official videographer for the 2016 Old West Balloon Fest. I actually kept my media pass. If you're watching this podcast on YouTube, I'm showing you right now. I kept my media pass from the event. I kept my credentials, and they hang on a wall in my studio right over here. It's a reminder to me that when you trust your instincts and go for it, you can achieve more than you ever dreamed. You can achieve more than you ever thought possible. I don't think that instincts are right 100% of the time, but man, they can be a powerful tool in your arsenal, whatever it is that you do. The more that you use it, the more that you'll learn to hone in your instincts, the more you'll gain the ability to trust them more when it comes to the really big stuff. So, use your instincts, take calculated risks, and make ridiculous big things happen. Thanks again for listening to Story Driven. Make sure that you're subscribed to us on iTunes and YouTube so that you don't miss an episode. We'll catch you next time.